I wasn't going to make this video at first, since I assume most people are sick of hearing me talk about the HSTV-L. But since the latest BR changes, a lot of you guys have been asking me to make a video on it, so here we are. As most of you are already aware, the HSTV-L recently had its autoloader changed. It used to be that you could fire 7 rounds at full speed, but after that, you had to replenish the ready rack. Replenishing a round took about 16 seconds, so for 7 rounds you were looking at well over a minute of waiting. During that time you couldn't fire, otherwise the process was cancelled. This wasn't how it functioned in reality, as the ready rack didn't move. It was always in the same position, and despite the gun's elevation angle, it could always accept a new round. So it was moved up to 10.3, and the ready rack was removed. This means it can fire all of its ammo without stopping, but it also means it fights tougher enemies far more often. I said in the BR change video I thought this was a good idea, and I stand by that. I've been saying they should up tier it for a long time. It not only keeps the HSTV-L from clubbing at 8.7, but it also means they can make it closer to how it actually was. And after the autoloader change, it basically performs as it should. The main things that were wrong were the mobility in the ready rack, but both of those are fixed now. There are some minor things that can still be changed, but we'll get back to those in a bit. For now, let's talk about how it currently performs. Before I get into it, let me make this clear. I do not think the HSTV-L is bad now, and I don't think it should have a lower battle rating. I think it's currently fine where it is. Just want to make that totally clear. The HSTV-L is a lot more capable now, but playing it at 10.3 is extremely inconsistent. This mostly comes down to who you're fighting. Fighting Soviet tanks is no problem, since they're pretty compact and have relatively easy to hit weak spots. It only takes about 1 to 3 shots to kill them on average. Leopard 2s, and to a lesser extent other NATO MBTs, are a completely different story. There are only 2 frontal weak spots you can exploit, the lower front plate and the turret mantlet. The lower front plate is pretty much a dice roll. You have no idea if the player you're fighting has brought whole ammo or not. A lot of players don't. Even if they do bring whole ammo, it's not a guaranteed 1 shot. Sometimes it takes 2 shots to kill the ammo. The mantlet is also kind of RNG, but not as much. The mantlet is a very small weak spot, and the breach will usually eat the entire round. Not only that, but ever since the introduction of volumetric shells, barrels can completely absorb a round or make it ricochet. There's a good chance that if you shoot the breach, you'll end up clipping the barrel and do no damage. Now you're probably thinking we'll just flank. Yeah, that doesn't always work out that well. Compared to light tanks, MBTs aren't that slow, so whether a flank is successful or not largely depends on if anyone goes the same route you do. Anyway, from the side, Leopard 2s are still a giant pain to kill. They have a ton of empty space, and XM885 does practically no damage. By the time you disable and kill a Leopard 2, you have spent much more time on target than an MBT would have. So how can it be more consistent? That's where we get into things that can still be corrected. There are 3 categories I have for this. Would be nice to have, wouldn't change much, and shouldn't be added. For the first category, there's XM885. It's missing 10% of its velocity, and the damage is rather appalling. I don't know how it would perform with the correct stats. Compared to the automatic start, it would be 6% heavier and 3% faster. So I'm guessing about 340mm of flat pen. That would make penetrating weak spots a bit easier, but the main issue is the round's damage. Right now, it does damage comparable to 35mm APDS rounds. It's basically incapable of destroying anything with SPAL. It needs direct hits. It can pass right by ammo and do nothing. I've had it go right through ammo without destroying it. It shouldn't be one-shotting everything, but it needs a lot of improvement. In comparison to 105 rounds, I think it should have similar SPAL damage but a smaller SPAL cone. That way you still need to aim carefully, but you're not getting shots like this. For the gunner sight, it's currently missing a low zoom setting. We know it had 2 settings in reality, we just don't know the exact specifications. They should probably just copy-paste the commander sight settings, since they appear to be the same sight anyway. Gaijin also seems to think this, since the gunner's current setting reflects the commander's high setting. It would make scanning for targets less of a chore. It would also be nice to have a high explosive proximity shell, or just regular high explosive. Anything that does more damage than this. On to things that don't really matter that much, there's the reload rate. I don't think half a second off the reload would change much. Plus, it's not technically incorrect. It did fire at that rate at one point, it's just that the 1 second reload has more sources backing it, and it was the final reload rate. The commander is also seated incorrectly. He should be reclining like the rest of the crew. For things I actively oppose, there's auto track. It would make top tier gameplay even more point and click than it already is. Imagine the Chrysanthemum's ground radar feature, but based on FLIR, and on the HSTV-L. Oh, and it also works with both tanks and aircraft. That would be a balancing nightmare. It could also function with 1 crew, like the STRV-103. I don't mind it on the STRV, but on the HSTV-L it would be broken. It doesn't need an advantage that massive. Anyway, that's pretty much all there is to it. I haven't seen too many people talking about the HSTV-L recently, so I'd like to hear what you guys think about it now. Make sure you leave a comment with your thoughts. I've got some exciting stuff I want to share soon, so keep an eye out for that. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one.